Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another fun-packed, fun-filled, and hopefully episode of 5 Minutes with Gray Hair Dave. This is episode number 19. Sorry it's a little late. But by the way, my name is Dave. I have gray hair, hence the name Gray Hair Dave. That's what I do. So, I've forgotten where we left off yesterday, but it doesn't matter. I think we were talking about cars, high school mascots, and politics, if I'm not mistaken. All right, so let's talk about what we talked about last week: mascots, politics, and cars. So in the 70s, early 70s, I had mentioned that I was painting a house for somebody my mother knew. This gentleman owned a furniture store in town. This is before all the big box stores with, like down here we have Rooms to Go and Ashley's, Hudson's, a couple other ones. There used to be a big one in the Detroit area that I don't know if it was anywhere else. My brothers might know, but it was called Joshua Door. So it's just a big place to go find furniture, and they have everything. Plus, you can pretty much get it, take it with you, or get it delivered same day or next. But those days are not the same as they were back when you went to a furniture store. They had a limited amount of space and a limited amount of furniture they could show you. But anyways, this gentleman had diversified and bought a couple of rental houses right by where the store was. So I was listening to the radio as I was painting this house when they were talking about the Watergate investigation, which is what brought down Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon left office in disgrace because he and his team got caught cheating and stealing information from the other party. I believe it was the Democratic Party. And then there were hearings. So I have to admit, it was entertaining to listen to. And for somebody who was, 15, 16 years old at the time, it was pretty interesting to me. I thought it was fun. And we talked about it a little bit in high school, and what you would now call political science. We used to call it civics. So civics class in my high school was cool for a couple of reasons. We had the cool teachers. They had the long hair. It wasn't like long down their backs, but it was over their ears and down to the collar. And, they were younger. Where, and I'm sure you, if you're not a baby boomer, you understand that because most of your teachers now are younger. Where back then, most of our teachers were middle-aged or older. And, you got somebody young in, man, that was a cool class. Everybody liked it. And, of course, all the girls liked these guys, which is it's okay. It's nothing wrong with that. And they were no competition for Dave. I was actually no competition for them. But that was fun times. So anyways, we talked about it a little bit, but it's something that I went through, and it's something that I'm glad I went through. And I am sure most of the baby boomers out there remember it. It was a weird time. Now, speaking of those times, the Vietnam War was there in the 60s and early 70s. I was lucky enough to not have to go into the draft system. Back in that day, and up until, it was about 6 months or a year before my 18th birthday, they did away with the draft because the Vietnam War had ended. They brought everybody home that could come home, and they decided to do away with the draft and make it an all-volunteer service. Well, both my brothers had to they didn't enlist, and they didn't serve in the military, but they had to go for an induction and take the physical, and then they got a draft card. and that draft card had some kind of a number on it, and that was your what they called your lottery number. And if this week they're pulling from numbers 23 through 59, those people went to the draft. They went to the service, and you didn't get to choose. You went where you were told, like it or not, or you left the country because things were kind of weird back in those days. They really were. They were weird back in those days. People would leave the country and move to Canada to avoid the draft. Now, these people, some of them were hippies, some of them were not. But if you left the country, which mainly meant going to Canada, I'm sure some went to other countries. I really am. But I'm talking going to Canada or Mexico because you deserted the country. You couldn't come back. I don't know anybody who did that, but I've seen stories, I've read stories, and I've heard things about later on, years later, like 20 years later, 30 years later, where they would try to come back, and I think it was on an individual basis, but I'm not sure about that. But anyways, if you want to know about that, the old saying Dave likes, look it up. Now, I could look it up, but what fun is that for you? If I look it up and just tell you, then I'd be telling a teacher. Well, teacher's not what I'm doing on this, but maybe it is. I like teaching. In my job here at the company I work for, I've done a lot of training and a lot of teaching, so I enjoy that kind of thing. Also, back when I was with the airlines, I did a lot of training, and I enjoyed it. And anyways, that's what that is. So now let's go on to high school mascots, which I'm going to get rid of I said some things in the beginning that I edited out, which I shouldn't have said. I'm all for equality, and I'm all for not offending people. But some of these mascots that we're getting rid of are just, it's out of control. Now, some of the ones they really need to get rid of, they're not. And they're getting rid of the good ones. But that's the way that goes. And that's all I'm going to say about that. So let's move on. Let's see. ChatGPT, my good old friend, says that I'm supposed to be talking today about health and wellness tips. You ain't going to get any health and wellness tips out of Dave, except don't do what I've done in my life. I haven't been a very healthy person. I smoked for years and years and years. I've drank beer for years and years and years. I haven't done as much exercise as I should, and I've had cancer. I've had a couple of other operations where they've had to take things out of me. And I've gotten hurt a couple of times when I worked at the paper mill. So I'm not going to talk about health and wellness, except I hope that you are, and you are doing things that will help you stay healthy and keep healthy. I am trying to live a little bit healthier life. I've cut back on my beer. I've cut back on my overeating and snacks that aren't good for you. But yeah, who cares about that? That's not what this podcast is about. This podcast is about what baby boomers did, things that we find fun. And I'm going to tell you, I saw something on TV last night I went, huh? I'm not going to tell you what the name of the show is because I don't want to give it any more advertisement than it's got. But this is not a show I normally watch, and the only reason I was watching is because I was bored and there was nothing else on. And I didn't want to do some other stuff online. So I'd had enough of computers yesterday because I work on the computer at work, and then I worked on the computer at home a little bit, and I was done. But what the heck? It's just these shows now. I don't get them. But I'm not supposed to. So hopefully you do. And if you like them, far out. That's about all I got for today, folks. I'm going to let this one go before I say something I shouldn't. This is episode number 19. I hope that's what I said earlier. Number 19. And I am Gray Hair Dave. Tell your friends. Tell your family. Tell people you don't even know. Hey, have you heard about this guy, Gray Hair Dave? He's got a podcast. It's called 5 Minutes with Gray Hair Dave, and it never lasts 5 minutes. You got a question or a concern? Go to my website, 5minuteswithgrayhairdave.com. That's the number 5minuteswithgrayhairdave.com. Down the bottom right-hand corner, there's a little microphone. Tap on that with your cursor and leave me a message. I'll reply. If you got to leave me an email to let me know how to reply. So the option's right there for you. So until next time, folks, this is Dave signing off saying, have a great day, have a blessed day, and remember, I am not a crook. I'm Gray Hair Dave. Bye.